and welcome to another day of the 12 Steps of Christmas. This project is literally so out of hand, it's unbelievable. It's gone bigger and bigger and bigger than I ever. It was supposed to be a PDF for Christmas and it ended up out of hand, and I'm so glad it did. And today,
I didn't even know that. I love how it's evolved. I'm glad to be part of it.
I'm so pleased to have Aimee Batuski today, one of my amazing Bali friends and LA friends and Burning Man friends, and relationship, pleasure, desire, and intimacy coach extraordinaire. So happy to have you, my dear.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to connect with your community in this way. Thanks for welcoming me here.
Yeah. So this is a juicy one today. Our conversations are always very juicy, I feel. Even if we're not talking about juicy things, it has quite a lot of innuendos.
Yeah, that's very true.
Which actually is a bit of a theme with a lot of my friends, but especially with you.
Yeah.
And if you are ready for the juice, put the little juice emoji into the chat.
I love the juicy emoji, the little wet waterworks.
I just sent it to you actually before.
Oh my God. No, I didn't even see that.
In our group, yeah. Because
okay.
Aimee and I and a bunch of others are about to be moving into a massive Bali mansion all together.
It's going to be talking about juiciness. Like the group of us are so vibrant and alive and juicy and wonderful. It's going to be such an epic house.
Yes. Okay, so today we are talking about lots of things, but we have a theme of relationships and loving others, which is, I couldn't have even planned it better if I tried. But that is your expertise, and you teach me so much about this just by osmosis, being with you, even if you don't speak, just the way you are.
Thank you.
And I can't wait for you to share some of these nuggets, because it's like a nugget a minute, more, probably 10 vegan chicken nuggets a minute with you.
Right. That's right. Vegan chicken nuggets.
Yeah, so would you like to start by just telling everyone who you are, how you got here, and a bit about your story?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, as you said, my name is Aimee Batuski, and I am an intimacy and pleasure coach and expert, and I primarily work with women, although sometimes I work with men too. I have a company called Desire on Fire, and my business partner, Ellie, and I lead mostly retreats and programs for women, but then sometimes we bring men in for virtual or in-person co-ed retreats for singles or couples, and it's so fun, but not my normal niche, although I get very turned on about it, because I love relationships, which is what we're talking about today. And I love relationship dynamics and how primarily men and women work together, although same-sex couples as well, and people who are gender nonconforming, absolutely, because relationships are complex and juicy no matter who you are or how you identify. So, all right. So how did I get here? Well, I started coaching full-time 5 years ago, and I was more of like a general life coach, sort of like accountability. And I don't know, I think a lot of coaches start that way. It's sort of like, I want to coach and I don't really know about what. And so I was just a general coach. And then I started my journey around relationships and sexuality and desire. And I just started transforming rapidly, and I started turning on, talk about juiciness, like my body started turning on. I started to learn all sorts of sensuality and sexuality practices, and everything changed. And I know that you can relate to this, Gina. If I learn things that are transformational, I have to share them. I can't know them and not share them with people. So I naturally started to integrate what I was learning into my work with clients, and have been teaching around sexuality and intimacy for 3+ years, and I fucking love it.
I know.
There's no hiding that.
You are literally one of the most enthusiastic people probably in the world, in a non-annoying way. Not like over the hump enthusiastic, but just like so lit up for what you do. And I love that about you.
Thank you. I'm so passionate. What did you say?
it goes with the territory because you teach desire and turn on. It would be a little weird if you were like,
right. Be a bit hypocritical if I was just like a very turned off person and was like, but turn on is important. And also I actually want to say something about that, which is that when I talk about turn on, I mean ignition in your body. And so it actually doesn't mean like being happy and like aroused all the time. It just means connecting to the ignition in your body, right? Yeah. And it could be excitement, and it could be arousal, and it also could be sadness and grief, and it could be anger, but actually allowing for ignition in your body, and like connecting to it and letting it fuel you in life. So that's one thing that I want to say, because I use turn on so freely, and you too, and because of course we talk about it, but other people are like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not aroused by that. And it's like, you don't actually have to be aroused to be turned on, right? It's just ignition in the body.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just turned on.
Indeed. I love that you are. And I often am too. And I actually think that when people do this kind of work, they become more easily turned on in the traditional sense, like aroused by life, right? But it takes some thawing out, because we're generally pretty frozen in our bodies just because of our culture and conditioning.
Yeah. So one quick question I want to ask the people watching, because I'm seeing it on my phone, I'm seeing the comments. So post into the chat your comments and tell us you're here. And also tell us, on a scale of 1 to 10, how turned on are you by your life right now?
Ooh, that's a great question. I love that.
What's your number, Aimee?
I know, I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, I would say like 9. Depends on the day. Sometimes it is absolutely a 10. If it's a scale of 1 to 10, it is a 10. Some days I'm so turned on about my life. And then other days I'm like, okay, it's a 9. still pretty turned on. But that's also, I want to hear what people say, but I think it's also like, I can find the turn on in every stage and every phase that I'm in. Right. And like in my work, we call it getting off to any situation. Right. So just being able to find the get off, find the arousal, find the turn on in anything, even if it's like anger or grief or sadness or jealousy. So anyway, a lot of space for turn on if you're embracing all of it.
Yeah. And what is your journey with self-love?
So good. So, okay. So I actually always thought that I loved myself. And in many ways I did, right? I loved myself to the extent that I could, right? And I've had a really beautiful, I had a really beautiful upbringing, and like, I'm so grateful. I actually got into personal development work really when I was 8, but as an adult when I was 18. And so I've like had amazing tools and resources available to me my entire life. And I'm so grateful. And so I was like, I love myself. I love my life. Like, I create my life. I've had those perspectives since I was young. And it wasn't until I started doing this work around sexuality and intimacy that I realized all of the pockets of myself that I still had shame inside of. And so I realized wherever I was holding shame, I wasn't holding love. Right. And I had disapproval for the shame, disapproval for the things that were taboo. Yeah. And I think it's a really good indicator. It's like, where are you shaming yourself is a good place to see where you're not loving yourself. And really, like, I actually view love. This is something I'm just thinking of now, but like, one of the ways that I would define love is fully approving of yourself, right? Like, just bringing full approval of every part of you or another person, right? Like, no matter who you are, no matter how you act, no matter what, however you are, however you're not, I will approve of you. And how can we give that to ourselves, right? So I think in the sexuality space, especially, it is so easy to find things that we don't approve of, right? The taboo things, the scandalous things, the desires that seem dark or edgy or inappropriate, right? And so as I've been on this healing journey around my sexuality and intimate relationships, I'm like, that's a place I don't approve of myself. That's a place I don't approve of my body. That's a place that I don't approve of other people. And as I healed that and begun to approve, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much more in love with myself.
Oh, I love that. I'm literally writing notes every time we have these conversations. I'm like such a student when I'm with you. Honestly, I love it.
Oh my God. Well, I'm such a student with you, so I love how much we teach each other. It's so beautiful how we titrate because we have different geniuses and many similarities as well. But I love that. I love that about our friendship.
I'm writing all my notes. I love it. And I can see everyone saying hello, hello, and I can see the squirt emoji everywhere.
Good.
Irene says she's a 5. Dee says she's a 5. Patricia says she's a 3. Need turning on so much in every element of my life. Verity, I like that shame shows when there's no love. I love that as well. Yeah, lots of comments. So thank you for your comments. I love that. I love that. I love this interaction. It's so good.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, internet, Facebook, Zoom. Thank you.
Amazing.
It is, even though we just dissed Zoom a little bit because Zoom wouldn't work before. I was like, Zoom is not in the running for a medal. And I was like, actually, it's quite good.
No, it's working now. We love it. We're not going to shame.
We are not going to shame Zoom. We're going to fully approve.
That's right.
Yeah. And that is something that when I'm with you, and obviously with all your training and hearing you and other people that have trained in similar things, like you are all so approving, even if it's like somebody sharing some disgusting desire that you actually think is disgusting, you're like, yeah,
this is an amazing point, and I want to run with that because we're talking about relationships also today in the theme, and this is a huge thing that I've learned and that I teach when I'm talking to people around relationships, which is when somebody that you're in relationship with or not, could be a friend, shares a desire, it is so important to meet them with approval. Right. And this can be a big place where people have rifts in their relationship and can cause resentment, right? Because somebody shares a desire and they're like, you know, I don't know, I want to have a threesome. And then somebody else, and desires, by the way, are not always sexual. Obviously, we can have desire for anything, but I'm just using an example of something that might be edgy for someone else, right? And they're like, I want to have a threesome. And then if the partner's like, what the fuck? You do not love me? Do you not want me? Am I ugly? Do you like, how could you want that? Have you been cheating on me? And it goes into all of this shame, judgment, fear, right? Then that's going to cause more shame. It's going to cause closing down, shutting down, resentment potentially, right? Disconnection. And if you instead meet the person with approval, even if you don't agree, it can be so healing and so connected and so intimate, right? And so if somebody shares a desire, like I want to, okay, I'm thinking of edgy ones. Okay, so like if somebody says I want to explore anal play, right? And the other partner's like, I don't want to explore that, right? But what can they say that would be approving? So here's an example. I love that you expressed that desire to me. I can tell how vulnerable it was. And I really love that you're willing to explore your edges with me, your comfort zone edges with me. I don't feel open to that right now, or it's out of my comfort zone today, but I'm willing to keep exploring the conversation. Or I'd love to try something different that feels edgy, right? I'm not open to that, but I would love to try something else that feels edgy. Instead of being like, what the hell? Fuck you. What all the things that we do because we come from our, inner wounded child and we're fearful and we don't want to go out of our comfort zone and go out of control. So that is something that you can do anytime with anyone in your life, right? And to your point, like I do that all the time with our friend group, and people will share all sorts of things that could feel outrageous to my comfort level. And I'm like, awesome. Hell yeah. That's amazing. And I can only do that because I have learned to have approval for myself. Yeah. Right. For my own edges and for my taboo desires, for my things that I might feel ashamed about.
It's huge. It's a huge part of self-love and acceptance.
Yes.
It is that. And sex and self-love are so a thing. Like it's
so connected.
So a thing. Like actually, it'd be interesting to hear from you. How are they connected? How is sex and self-love connected?
I need to get this quote specifically because I was just interviewed for a podcast and I brought it up and I was like, I can't remember the exact quote, but Esther Perel talks about basically like, show me your sex life and I'll tell you about your romantic life, or show me your romantic relationship and I'll tell you what your sex life looks like, because they're so connected, right? So how we are in relationship, how we are in our emotionality and our intimacy is reflected and correlated with our sexuality and our sexual expression. And so, I mean, here's the thing. Sex is one of the most shamed areas of our lives, right? Sex, money. I mean, the chargiest areas in our life, charge in terms of like reaction, right, is like sex, money, religion, politics. So sex is one of the most shamed areas of our culture. Sex with others, sex with ourselves, right? And so it's a great place to look. If you are wondering, do I fully love myself? It is a great place to look. Are you fully comfortable with your sex, with yourself, and with others? And if you're not, it's an amazing place to dive in and explore, because when you can get fully comfortable with self-pleasure, pleasure with others, exploration sexually, oh my God, there's just new levels of self-love to reach, because you're healing shame and secrecy that our culture has instilled in us.
Wow. I'm so into this topic of like how the patriarchy is like, you know, had all women's desires and orgasms and pleasure suppressed in all these ways over the years. Like, it's such an interesting conversation that I'm just exploring more and more myself. It's like, fuck, that's not okay.
Not at all. And it's so, it's really pervasive, I guess is the word, but just how suppressed we are and how tamped down our sexuality and our orgasm is. And I say orgasm not to mean climax, I mean orgasmic energy, right? The ignition in our bodies that we all have, our eros, is so tamped down and shut down and shamed. And also, oh my gosh, well, this is a whole other thing, but our emotionality, right? Our emotionality is part of that. And where women have been just tamped down. Don't be emotional. Don't be sad. Don't be angry. Don't be reactive. Be small. Be skinny. Be easy. Don't be too much. Don't be too big. Don't be too loud. Don't be annoying. Don't be needy.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah. Someone messaged me today on Instagram saying, you know, I have these unfathomable highs that aren't obviously real. And you know, I let myself down because I talk about my lows. Like, you let yourself down and people aren't going to like you. And I'm just telling you because I want to be good to you. Some guy, and I was literally like, no. Absolutely. By the way, I can see Miss Stephanie Dickinson in the comments, who was a speaker the other day and one of our best friends.
Yes.
And she's saying meets desires with approval. Yes, I love the examples you shared. And we were having this conversation real time the other day, you know, so it's all tying in.
So glad to hear that.
And I'm seeing Kelly saying I'm an 8, and Kelly's just arrived back in Bali. So of course that's going to be up at a 10 very soon. Yes. Keisha saying love this. Kerry saying hey. Who's the author? What was the author you were talking about then?
Oh, Esther Perel. I was talking about Esther Perel's Mating in Captivity. That's the book that she's written many books, but Esther Perel's a famous sex therapist and relationship therapist.
Yeah. So what is it then for anyone watching, what we just touched on there about the patriarchy and the suppression? Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, you know, I think it's scary. I think our power and our orgasmic energy, our potential, our emotionality is so powerful. It is scary for our culture. And so the thing to do is to tamp it down, right? And then there's so many ways. Actually, and the way that I learned it from my lineage and the way that I teach it is talking about it in the frame of hunger. So our hunger is so powerful and it is the most shamed, right? Don't be hungry. Don't eat too much. Don't want too much sex. Don't be slutty. Don't want too much power, right? Don't be greedy. Don't make too much money. It's all hunger, right? It's all under the umbrella of hunger. And our hunger is so suppressed and shamed, and our hunger is so powerful, right? If we actually unleash our hunger for life and for sex and for pleasure and for play and for money and for power and for connection and intimacy, if we actually allowed ourselves to unleash that and follow it, oh my God, we would take over the world. And so it's easier, and it's like more, it's our culture wants to contain, right? Like, we need to contain things. We need to keep things under control. And the feminine is not controllable. The feminine is outrageous and dynamic and messy. And it's like this, right? We're like so excited one day and then distraught and crying the next day. And we're having orgasmic, cry fests. And then we're having temper tantrums. We are, if we allow it, if we actually allow it, that's in all of us women. It's actually in all people. The feminine energy is inside of all of us. And we have a culture that we are product of fear of being out of control. Right? So in order to keep control, it's like we need to suppress these feminine qualities of hunger, for power, for connection, for food, for sex, for play. Because otherwise we would take over. I tell women, I'm like, our sex is so powerful. I mean, people move mountains. People spend all of their money to have sex with us, right? They move across the world. They are willing to risk their presidency in order to have sex, right? It is so powerful. I mean, I talk, a lot about pussy. And if you haven't read the book, Pussy, A Reclamation, I highly recommend it. It's by Mama Regina Thomas Shower. I have all my clients read it, but I'm like, the power of the pussy is just like, and so it's just like keeping it under control, keeping it under wraps. And that's why we're in this patriarchal culture that's just like, no, don't come out with that hunger, that emotionality.
I'm seeing everyone saying, I'm very, very hungry.
Yes!
Yes! If you are like, I am hungry into the chat.
Yes! All that hunger.
We are fucking
We are hungry. We are hungry, and our hunger is shamed. Our hunger is so shamed. It's like, how many of us had parents who were like, are you going to eat that? Are you really going to have another bite? Right? I'm so grateful I didn't have parents like that, but so many of my friends and colleagues and clients did, right? And how many of us see these messages on TV, right? And on social media? Lose weight, eat less, do less, don't be too much, right? Oh my gosh, I could go on and on about our hunger suppression.
I literally feel like I want to sick something up right now listening to this. It ignites that within me. Yeah, definitely. Irene is saying, does this depend where you live in the world? Bali seems to have loads of women who are living this free and wild life, but not so much like that in the UK. Or is that me feeling suppressed? The suppressed nature of the UK. Well, I can definitely take this one because I totally feel you, Irene. You by kind of osmosis become your surroundings in a way. So when I come back to Bali, I'm super juiced up, and all my friends here are so wild and naked and free and desire fest. We were all feeding each other with our hands, and we're just like wild animals, and it's great. I come back to England and I bring that energy back, and it gets shamed by different people around me, and I can hold that, but and then I have to go and fill up again. So it is possible to hold it anywhere, but
it's so possible. And I love that you bring that to your community in the UK. And it takes a hungry woman to be willing to do that, right? A hungry, powerful woman in what I call her rightness around who she is and what she brings, and the importance of this nutrient, right? This specific quality of nourishment that is our sexuality, our hunger, our desire, and bringing that approval. And you get to bring the approval, ladies who are watching, or I don't know if any gentlemen are watching, but definitely you are the ones that get to bring that. And and I mean, it takes some courage to hold that in different places for sure. But I mean, I do that I'm from Maine. I don't know if anybody who knows the US, who's watching or is from the US, but I'm from a state in the US that is like, has 2 million people total in the whole state. Like, it's very small. I'm a weirdo, compared to my friends, and they love it. Like, they love it. I love it. They resist it some, but they definitely love it. Right. And we get to be the permission. We get to be walking permission and approval for all things desire and hunger and sexual expression. And then like our world shifts.
Literally, if you saw where I was from, you like I come from Polton Filed. It's this tiny little town. It doesn't even have a juice bar. Like, it's just a tiny little town near to this other tiny town called Blackpool that has like a tower, and it's like an old school seaside resort that no one goes to anymore apart from stag and hen do's or bachelor and bachelorette things. Well, probably not at the moment, but it's like the most bizarre place. That's where I grew up. It's like, wow. Anyway,
you're bringing the turn on there when you go there.
Okay. That's why whenever I go home, I do like a giving back series, and I do like free talks and workshops there, and everyone's just there like jaw on the floor, even with things like mirror work or gratitude journal. But like, oh, it's so new, So
Yeah. I love that.
I have some other questions.
Great.
So, you mentioned before when you went into this work and you started to do your sensuality practices.
Mm-hmm.
So for somebody watching who's like, "Oh, that sounds good. I would like to do that." What is that, or what are they?
You're like, are you sure you want to know?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say three main practices that have made the biggest difference for me, like somatic practices, which are one, orgasmic meditation, which is a partnered practice where someone strokes a woman's clitoris for 15 minutes, can be a man or a woman, strokes a woman's clitoris for 15 minutes with no goal except to feel. When I found out about this practice, I was like, I'm never doing that. That is so weird. That is some weird ass hippie shit. I'm not touching that practice with a 10-foot pole. And what I like to say in my work is, if you have aversion to something, then you probably also have desire for that thing. So if there's a strong aversion, a strong reaction or resistance, there might be some desire there. I had major aversion to this practice, and that's why I needed it. So I started practicing orgasmic meditation. I got trained in the practice, and I met other people who practice this. It's kind of like finding other people who do a certain kind of meditation. And so we practiced together, and I started having an orgasmic meditation practice, and I had it for like pretty consistently for like 2 to 3 years. So not every day, but many days a week. So yeah, I was lying down on my back, getting my pussy stroked 15 minutes a day, at least, many days a week. And that is crazy for most people. Like, it was for me. I was like, what the hell? But I really needed to thaw out and learn to heal and learn to feel. And so I started healing where I had shame or fear of receiving, fear of the masculine, didn't trust men. And in a safe space with a safe set of parameters, I could really let go and learn to receive and thaw out where I was frozen. So that's one. Another one is,
we will post a link so you can read more about that, because the first time I heard about that, I was like, whoa, I've been living in Bali for a long time, but even so, this one's going to take a little bit to land, but yeah.
Totally. Really and if you're really freaked out, if you're hearing this and you're so freaked out about it, you're like, oh my God, no way. Don't worry. That was me too. You don't ever have to do it. And some people I tell, and they're like, yeah, sign me up. Like, it's actually amazing to see people's reactions, because I'm shocked when people are a hell yes, because it was so scary and confronting for me. I was trained in the practice and didn't try it for 3 or 4 months after I learned it, because I was so resistant. And now I'm so grateful for it. So
put into the chat if that sounds like, oh my God, I would love to try that.
Yeah,
oh my God, no.
Yeah. Oh my God, hell yes or hell no.
But where do I find a volunteer for that in the UK? Well, funnily enough,
there's a community in the UK they call the practice orgasmic meditation OM, right? Om for short. So we say Omers, people who practice. So there's actually a whole community of Omers in the UK. So yeah, we'll post a link of, I think there's now like some online ways to get trained in orgasmic meditation. I'm not sure what even the opportunities are for connecting with the community, but you can reach out to me on Instagram. We'll talk about that. We can talk. I'm happy to get you connected if you want to learn the practice. It's amazing. And then, okay, so the next one is sensual movement. So I learned through S Factor, which is in the US. I think it's only in the US, but there are many different forms of sensual erotic movement. And pole dancing is S Factor. It's pole dancing and floor work. And I started taking those classes. I was so resistant. Like the thing is, I love my clients because they're so resistant to everything. And I'm like, I get it, because I was so resistant. Like I didn't want to come to any of the classes, but the same thing, aversion and desire are two sides of the same coin. So because I hated the classes because they were so hard for me and I didn't know what I was doing on the pole and I felt clumsy and unflexible and unsexy, I knew I had to keep going. And so I've taken S Factor classes for like 2 to 3 years. Now I teach a form of sensual and erotic movement as part of my courses. It's so fun. It's so sexy. It's so delicious. And I don't use the pole in Bali because there are pole schools here, but I don't go to them, but I do floor work. So floor, chair, wall, different kinds of moves. It's so much fun and so sexy, and it really has me feel connected to my body.
Yeah, and you get knee pads on, don't you?
And I have my knee pads because it is a lot of work on your knees and like with your butt in the air and, you know, humping the floor and all sorts of stuff. And so it really helps having knee pads. Yeah, they're very sexy. I make them very sexy.
I did that this morning. It was like the last day of my moon cycle and Vincent was going off to the gym and I was like, I don't want to go to the gym. I just want to like lie around on the floor and gyrate to music. And I just like, wow, it was so sensual and so sexy. And I was hardly even moving at times.
Yeah, you can just lie there and it's amazing. It can be so pleasurable and blissful to just kind of like lie there and move a little bit or just allow your body to kind of flow. Yeah, it feels so good.
I swear I did cat cow, but like sexy cat cow, you know, moving in for about 30 minutes. It was great. My eyes closed. Yeah.
So beautiful. Such good connection to your body. That's great. So that's the second one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That one might be more accessible for people. And I actually had been leading weekly sensual movement classes through all of quarantine, which was really fun virtually for everybody. And so I had people from all over taking those classes, but I'm not teaching them anymore publicly, only inside of my courses. But I am going to lead one for our friend group here in Bali. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah. Okay. So the third one is a self-pleasure practice. So this has been also a long game. This has been a long road. I also had a lot of resistance to this one. I pretty much everything I've done in my journey, I've done it kicking and screaming because I was so resistant and afraid and uncomfortable with it. So I've used a vibrator for years. And it wasn't until I really dove into this work and slowed down that I put the vibrator away and started to actually connect with my own body and touch my own body and explore my own body and my own pussy. And I started a jade egg practice. So if anybody, here's my jade egg. It sits next to my computer. Here it is. And a glass wand practice, which is also here. They sit next to my computer because they have amazing energy because they go inside of me. And so, yeah, these are two things that I have, I built up a practice of connecting to my pussy, connecting to beautiful glass and crystal like objects that are really nourishing for my body energetically and physically that I choose to put inside of me, and really connecting with what does my body want. And sometimes my self-pleasure practice is just caressing myself. Sometimes it's dancing. Sometimes it's massaging my head. Sometimes it's caressing my pussy. And I know a practice called peaking, which is very similar to orgasmic meditation, but it's like when you do it with yourself. And it's also called edging in like the tantra world, which is like stroking, basically upstroking on your clitoris and then coming to a peak and then not going over the climax and then downstroking and then coming down and then going back up to a high peak, but not going over the edge, coming back down like that. And so that's a way to expand your sensation that you can feel in your body and to expand your orgasmic potential. So I have met and I've learned from many different teachers. I'm actually in another course. I'm always in courses and programs because I'm like, if I'm holding them, I need to be in them too. And I love learning from other teachers. So I'm in one right now. And we do peaking. I'm actually peaking tonight in a few hours with a bunch of women all over the world, virtually. So I really have accountability. I've had a once a week call with some of my girlfriends where we put on music and we watch a guided video sometimes of different teachers and we self-pleasure. We put our videos off, we put music on, and we just really hold each other accountable for connecting to our bodies, because in our busy world, we can very much avoid it easily. So it's helpful.
So for anyone watching this, if this sounds like, oh my God, I could never do that, I'll never, like we've said already on this call, we've both been there. And then like, honestly, self-pleasuring in a room full of women, the first time I ever did that, there was like a big altar of all flowers and crystals in the middle. We were all lying with our heads in towards the altar, legs out, just candlelit. We'd had this gorgeous share circle. And then someone led us through this whole body, like self-pleasure ritual. It was my friend Christiane. And it is the most natural thing in the world. Like, I was just lying there thinking, why are we all not doing this all the time? Why is this shamed? Why is this taboo? Why would you not want to see your best friend like loving and pleasuring her own body?
Yeah.
Why is that dirty? Or why does that mean you're a slut? Or why does that get said that it's like some whore thing or no, it's so natural.
So natural. It's so beautiful. Our pleasure is so beautiful and it's so hidden. And getting to see, I've seen so many of my friends in sexual dynamics and sexual or sensual situations, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to witness and to take in and to approve of and to gain energy from, right? It's just so beautiful. And I've done a lot of different self-pleasure circles in different retreats that I've participated in, and also retreats that I've led, some of my advanced retreats, but it's so powerful. And to me, it feels very tribal. It feels very primal and tribal and beautiful. And when you can get comfortable with that, I mean, just comfort level just across the board goes up, which is amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just we've just got to ask ourselves that question, like, why have we been lied to? Why have we been shamed? And it's a big subject, and it's every time I go into any kind of space, whether it's like a temple party or a self-pleasure thing or a course with our, where we're doing something and the camera's off, or anything that includes pleasure in any way, it's such a growth opportunity. You get to see yourself so strongly. Every time I enter that space, I learn where my edge is. Sometimes I go over the edge. Sometimes you get a really deep trigger, but it's so expansive.
It's so illuminating, right? Of where we're holding shame, where we're uncomfortable. I'm leading I'm leading a 6-month program right now called Pleasure Mastery. And once a month we have a guided self-pleasure circle virtually. And, one of the women today on our group call was like, I don't like the sex part. Can I just leave that part out of the program? And we're like, what specifically? And she's like, well, the self-pleasure calls. And I was like, this is so great. Like, what about it makes you uncomfortable, right? And, and all they need to do is show up and sit there, right? They can breathe through it. They don't have to touch themselves. You don't have to do anything, right? But just to notice, it brings up so much, right? Of our shame or disapproval or discomfort with our own bodies or orgasmic potential, or with thinking of other people as sexual, right? We're all sexual beings.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I grew up in a family where it's not mentioned at all. There's no mention of sex at all. And the slightest thing would be like, oh God, don't say that. Oh, that's horrible. I don't want to think of you like that. Like,
Yeah.
but the thing is, like, I'm so open and free with all my
Yeah.
friends when I'm in Bali with my partner. But if I'm like, I don't even want to go into what the story was, but this one thing happened in my family and I did that. I was like, I don't want to think of that. And I was like, wait.
Where'd that come from?
I was like, wait, I'm doing it. There we go. I just did the same thing. Yeah, I just shamed it.
Yeah, such a conditioned response. Yeah.
Mm.
And my mom is in my program. So I hear, and my mom and I are super open, but like I talk about my sex so openly with my parents. My parents have done one of my co-ed retreats. Like they're so open to growth. And so I share about it really freely, and still like, it's still edgy for me, even though I have really sex positive parents. Like my mom doesn't go into detail about her sex life because she just like wants to honor that I'm her child, which I really actually love. Because sometimes parents like withhold too much and sometimes they share too much. So I think it's beautiful to have a balance and boundaries around that. But I just am really grateful to be able to have these conversations and not have it feel shamed. And it's funny because my mom has her own edges around. So she's like, I don't understand this anal play thing. Like she's so funny. And I'm just like, see, this is great. And where can you approve even if you don't want the same thing, right? Because I teach about all sorts of different types of desires and pleasure exploration. So yeah, it's so interesting to see where we're conditioned and where we have shame and where we have secrecy, right? And we're only as sick as our secrets. So if we are secretive around our desires, like it creates not just physical sickness, but emotional and spiritual sickness, right? When we talk about self-love, it's like we can't fully love ourselves if we are sick with our secrets.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I love the other day when you spoke on my mastermind when you said, don't yuck other people's yum.
Yeah.
Yuck
Yeah.
my
Very done. Yeah.
You've got some good little phrases in there. I'll give that to you.
Yeah.
One thing that I've got written down that I was just literally, I was like, what do I want to ask Aimee? And what came to me, I'm not sure why, was I remember a day when you were, I think you were holding a big retreat or something, and you'd posted, you were like, I'm looking for single conscious men to come in and be like the masculine in the retreat. And I remember that post, I was like, this is the best PR post you've probably ever done in your life. And you
Yeah.
probably didn't realize it.
Yeah.
All these women were like tagging conscious hot men.
Yeah.
And then all the women were like, oh my God, this is the best site.
They're
Everyone
like
was going through like adding this.
taking notes, messaging the men.
I think that was like the biggest, like, I don't even know what that was. That was a big ripple.
Well, you know, it's funny that you bring that up because that post, I used a tool that Alison Armstrong teaches. And so for those of you who don't know Alison Armstrong, I reference like all of my teachers all of the time because I have so many amazing teachers that I've learned so much from, and I'm so grateful. And then I bring all of the things that I've learned and all the gold and then bring it into what I teach. And Alison Armstrong talks about how men are providers, right? And men naturally, those who hold the masculine are naturally providers. And so it really makes a difference when we ask for help. Because if we ask for something in a way that is, I need help, they naturally step into provider role, right? And so what we tend to do as women is like, I'm uncomfortable and I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to be needy, right? Same thing with hunger. It's like, it's just like your neediness is like, you're too hungry, right? It's like you want too much. So we don't own when we need help. So, and we needed men, right? And so the way that I phrased it is I was like, I need help. Right? I'm looking for conscious men who are doing inner work, who want to connect with the feminine, or however I phrased it. I'm not even sure. But it was a big deal because I think it had the reaction that it did because I was using my tools and because I was speaking to the provider in the men that I would want to be attracting from that post anyway for my courses and for like for the women who are in my programs and bringing the men in, which is what we were attempting to do there. And it was so cool to see how many men responded that way. And that's like another thing just about relationships where simple relationship tools can be so profound, even just like a linguistic change like that. Instead of like, if you don't mind, like, would you possibly be willing to maybe at some point, if it works for you? And instead of being like, hey, honey, I need help.
I practiced this last night because V left the doors open, and in Bali, if you have any lights on at night at the moment, a gazillion bugs go to the light. And well, maybe I left the door open. Who knows? That was just a detail. Anyway, I was in bed and all these bugs were like dive bombing my head, and I was like, I need help. You need to save me. And he was like, to the rescue. He's like, like not killing them, just like swooshing them out the door.
Yeah.
A complete hellhole in here. I was like, get them off me, being like a complete damsel in distress. And he was like,
right. Yeah, he's like, I got this.
Yeah. Then this morning he was like, are you okay? Did you sleep okay? And I was like, oh, I did after you saved me. I would have had a horrible night's sleep. And he was like,
so true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then encouragement and acknowledgement is so important also in our relationships with men, right? Really having men feel validated and loved for how they do provide for us, right? How the masculine does step up and love us and give to us. Because another thing that's really missing in relationships is a lack of appreciation and a lack of, because it's also so vulnerable to be grateful.
Yeah.
Because it means that you're receiving.
This is new. This is a new level that I'm going to with this, but it really works. Like, it's so hot. We just had like the hottest day ever, and yeah. Also, I know we're coming up to time, but I'm just experiencing at the moment. So Vincent and I's like wounds are hugging each other, which I guess everyone's are in some way. He finds it really vulnerable to receive. And so he's normally like in full giver role. And I feel I'm really vulnerable with giving.
Yes.
And like giving to him feels really vulnerable because I have this story that if I give him what he wants, then he won't want more. He'll be like, okay, I'm done now. And he'll lean back.
I'm satiated. Bye.
Yeah, I know. And so we had this huge conversation about it. And he was like, oh, I really get that now. I'm really seeing that now. And I was like, yep, we're just hugging each other's wounds. It's all good.
Yeah.
We just need to love each other through this. And I was thinking of you.
I love that. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that because I so get that. And we all have those, right? Where our partners are our biggest teachers, and it points out like where we have weakness or where we need to grow or get to grow. And it's so amazing that you both are seeing that. And the vulnerable spot for both of you is actually the same. Like, it's two sides of the same coin, right? For him, it's receiving. For you, it's giving. And I really, really get that one. I resonate a lot with that. And I know for me, I've had a big breakthrough in this recently, and I've already shared this with you, but just how much I've started to express my gratitude more for the men in my life, especially men that are very close to me or hold me in some sort of capacity, like in my work or in coaching or in relationship. And to express gratitude like that deeply, like from my heart, from my body, is so vulnerable because it shows that I need them. It shows that I'm receiving. It shows that I'm not just like Miss Independent, I can do whatever I want, like, which I don't want to be anyway, right? It's an unlearning to get out of that. So it's so powerful to practice gratitude and acknowledgement for the masculine.
Yeah, and if you didn't watch Sophia's talk from, I don't even know what day that was, it seems like months ago, Sophia talked at length about this, this relinquishing needing and wanting to be Miss completely independent and actually letting somebody provide and look after us. And it's edgy. It's an edgy one. But
very edgy.
But then if someone can do it, it's like, oh, I don't have to work. Yes, I could have a baby. Great.
Yeah. Yes.
Amazing. Or something else.
Yeah.
Okay. So many comments. Irene says, I can guarantee my mum would rather die than do that, but that brings shame on its own, doesn't it? I feel you, Irene.
Yeah.
Carrie is saying, where can I reach you? We're going to pop all Aimee's details in, but it's Aimee Batuski.
Yep.
Website?
Aimee Batuski. That's my aimeebatuski.com, Aimee Batuski on Instagram, Aimee Batuski on Facebook, Aimee Batuski everywhere.
Yeah, good one. I love the congruence.
Yeah.
And any other things? Oh, Irene's also saying she wouldn't last 15 minutes.
Well, that's what you think, but that's part of the practice, is it really has you expand how much energy and sensation and pleasure you can hold in your body. Which is pretty cool.
Such a gift.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have an actionable step that the ladies can go away and do tonight?
Well, I mean, I think it'd be amazing to invite you to take on a little bit of time for self-pleasure today. And it could be, setting a timer really helps. So even setting 5 minutes, and whatever your edge is. So it could just be like literally just touching your body and massaging yourself. It could just be breathing and allowing yourself to lie in bed without looking at your phone. Just be in the pleasure of lying in bed and look and being in your thoughts and looking at the ceiling and enjoy. It might be dancing around your room. Put one song on and let yourself freestyle dance. It might be touching your pussy and exploring, and without any goal of I need to get to climax, I need to get somewhere. Might be climaxing. So I would totally invite you to take 5, 10, 15 minutes today to be in your own pleasure with yourself, and see what comes out of that.
Love it, love it, love it. So if you are going to do that, pop us, which emoji should we have for that?
I like the lightning bolt. Lightning bolt for me is like electricity. So how can you connect to the electricity in your body?
Amazing. Love that. Love it, love it, love it. So what do I want to share? Oh, yes. So a couple of announcements. On the 29th of December, we have our annual big event, Self-Love Soiree. It's been on the last 3 years. It's an amazing session. It's 10 till 2 in England time. And we'll be going into all of this year, taking out the best teachers, what didn't work, where we could have brought more energy to something in a really systemized but cool, fun and flowing way. And then we'll be creating a manifestation vortex with cacao. There's a cacao ceremony. And going into 2021 as a sisterhood, seeing where we can help each other, keep each other accountable, and take this energy into 2021. So if you've never done manifestation before, it's perfect because I'll lead you all through that. If you've done it loads, it's perfect because in that vortex, like it's a powerhouse. So I'm seeing loads of lightning bolts, by the way. And the other thing is that one lucky lady will win a place on January's 12-step self-love transformation. So this will go to a woman who has been engaging this week, watching the videos, messaging, tagging people, sharing, doing the tasks. I just saw one of the bugs go past. I'm like, time to turn the lights off. And yeah, so there will be a prize that will go to one lucky lady that's worth £1,000 on the 12-step self-love transformation. So I'm super excited. We've been keeping a log of who's been participating. So there's still time to do that if you want to be in with a chance. So, okay, thank you so much, Aimee.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I would do this every day.
Doing it every day.
Yeah, you have been.
It has been so much, and honestly I've learned so much from all my friends, so much, and there's so many different approaches to the same thing. Yeah, but there's so many threads. Like there's something that's run through, and I'm going to kind of wrap it all up together, but it's just been so expansive. And like I said, this was going to be a 1-page PDF for Christmas around like upping your self-love, and it just got out of hand. It was like the universe just wanted it. And yeah, and even now, like, desire wants so many messages back, and it does. And then every day people have shared, and my intention was to say the perfect thing to the perfect person in the perfect time for us all to say the perfect thing. And every day someone is saying like, oh my God, that one tip, I've just gone into a job interview and I ended up getting it because I used that tip. Yesterday, someone was saying Steph's tip about authentic relating, and then went onto a date and used it in the date. And I was just like, oh my God, and so many of these messages. So yeah, just seriously, thank you for your gifts, Aimee. And you are a gift.
Thank you so much.
And we're gonna live together soon.
I can't wait.
Oh my God, imagine.
So much electricity in the house.
Imagine the Insta stories.
Get ready, everyone.
Okay, so we'll leave it there. Feel free to ask any questions, hit replay, send messages to Aimee or tag her if you wanted to see anything, because otherwise she won't. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.